Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Eric Rozenberg. Nice to see everyone today for a new mentor session. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Eric Rozenberg. Although I live in South Florida for 8 years, the accent you hear is from Belgium. I've been an entrepreneur all my life, started several businesses, had my own corporate event agency back then in Brussels, and work in over 50 countries in the world. I'm currently leading a SaaS company, CQTix, which is the ticketing platform of the Euro, which is taking place right now for those who like soccer. And I also have a podcast called The Business of Meetings, where I help business owners, primarily in the meetings and event industry, but obviously in this group, I have all the questions. So let's get into it, and let's get into the first question I have here today, which is a question from Liv Gruber, which is asking, what step do we need to take to manufacture a product? So the background is they want to manufacture a specific lamp. I found a model that I like on Alibaba that I would like to customize it further. I talked to a product design firm that could help us, but it will be relatively expensive to go through them. I know you can ask manufacturers on Alibaba to customize items for you, but I want to make sure everything is done right, of good quality. Thank you. So what step do you need to take to manufacture a product? I would say the first thing is, especially when you're mentioning that you've seen something you like, there are copyrights. So make sure you're not copying something and that whatever you come up with a new design is totally unique. You're trying to make a copy of something, because then you're opening the door to be sued, quite frankly. That wouldn't be ethical to copy something. But here you go. So making sure first that you have the unique design, and that there is something that you're not copying from anybody else. Then there's a lot of things that goes into the game right now. Do you want to have a patent on it, or do you want to protect it? And also very important is how you're going to get that produced. Before doing that, the different step to take to manufacture a product is to estimate the cost that you're going to have to produce, to manufacture that product. And you want to go into the different scenarios of where you're going to have it produced, how much is it going to cost, how you're going to deliver to your customer, to basically know what would be your break-even point. In other words, how much do you have to sell, so the price and the number of units that you need to sell to make sure that you are at least break-even. That means that you're not losing money, and hopefully be profitable. Of course, if you have some investment and some reserve, you can decide for production for several months. But basically, the first thing that I would do is look at the product itself to produce. How much is it going to cost you per unit? And then, obviously, is to find which are the market, which are the niche you're going to target, which are the people you're going to try to sell it to. And I would go back to something I already mentioned in the past. I would Google the business model canvas. Business model canvas, you can download it for free. That's basically a one sheet that will tell you all the question you need to think about before manufacturing your product. And actually you can use it for any type of businesses, but you start with the value proposition, then you look at what are the different partners you're going to have. In this case, what are different vendors you're going to use to manufacture your product. And obviously there's a different ways of distributing it. If you are FBA, so fulfillment by Amazon, this is something basically you don't need to store anything yourself. But if you look, before going into online or not, if you look at the chain, the supply chain, so you have this idea, you patented the idea, you manufacture your product, how you're going to produce it, how you're going to distribute it, which are your different customer, and so on and so forth. And you decide at which stage you're going to use an online distributor. And obviously producing the lamp, I don't know where you're going to have it produced, but let's say you're having it produced in China and you want to deliver in Spain and you're based in Connecticut, So there are different elements there that you have to take into consideration. So very basically, look at what you want to be producing, look at the cost to produce that, look at the type of customer you want to have, look at how it's going to cost you, how you're going to distribute it and get it to your customer, and how much is going to cost you. So you really have an idea of the number of lamps that you have to produce and the profit you have to make on it. So it's a very simple, I would say, a process at the beginning, but it's very complex, especially when you're talking about importing goods or going from one country to another. So really do your homework, and I would summarize this in two aspects before starting anything. The first one, again, how much is going to cost you? What is your break-even point? Very, very important. And the second is how you're going to price it and distribute it so that you have an idea of the type of customer and how you're going to get that to them. So in answering your question, steps you need to take to manufacture a product, those are the two main important for me. Obviously, there's the aspect of patent, there's aspect of copyright. Just make sure you're not copying anything because you're opening the door for a major problem. And then do your homework. When you have the process for each step, think about, okay, what type of information do I need? Who do I need to talk to? And actually call those people. Call the people that are going to produce it. Call the people that are going eventually to import it. Or call the people that are going to do the warehouse. There's a lot of online education if you're going to like a fulfillment by Amazon, FBA, for instance. But really think about the process and your cost before anything else. It's exciting. You're going into a new venture. You have a new product. Awesome. And you want to make sure that you know what are your costs and how you're going to make profit. Okay? So Liz, good luck with that. Hi, Sean. My pleasure. Always good to see you. And we're going to the second question from Marielle Goodrich. How do I know if I'm charging appropriately for a new concept? That's a good question. Background of the question. Isle Barden is a concierge mixology service for private and public events. We specialize in organic fresh fruit and herb cocktails and mocktails. We're a full service caterer for the bar side of events. We're graphic design custom menu for every event based on theme, guest of honors, and client design. And the menu only serves as a guide, and we encourage guests to create their own cocktail or mocktail from the fresh fruit bar. So what I've seen in the description of what you're doing into the question is basically you are using only organic fresh fruit because your service is to be more expensive than a bar that would use things like processed sour mix and juices from concentrate. I'm only making profit from prep and service time. Everything else is direct pricing to customer, as do not yet have a liquor license and do not have brick and mortar to store fruits. I don't think people realize the real meat of the cost is in team supplies, liquor, and fruit. I do not make anything of that. Other mobile services just show up and pour what is provided or supply a small menu using your average mixer and liquors. All our 500 of our recipes can be made with or without liquor because the fruit and herbs are giving the flavor, not the liquor. Thank you in advance. And I'm incredibly excited to be part of this AO team, and we're very happy that you're here as well. So let me go back about something you said, Mario, that is very important. You said, I'm only making profit from prep and service time. Everything else is direct pricing. And then you say, I don't think people realize the real meat of the cost is in team supplies, liquor, and fruit. So let me first share a story with you about perception, because that's really the most important. That's when you have a value perceived, that's when you can charge more. So when I used to run events, I had a friend who was really keen in coming with us on the project because he was always hearing about those crazy programs we put together all over the world. And we often needed a photographer, so he wanted to come with us. So I asked him to quote for a project. And when he first sent me the quote, I gave back to it. I said, listen, I know you are a fashion photographer. I know that everybody in fashion want to do picture with you. But the perceived value from the customer is, you know, instead of taking their phone and taking picture, they're gonna have a photographer. So the price that you're asking might be totally adequate for a fashion shooting, but it's not gonna fly here. And by the way, what you're asking comes back to 15% of the entire budget of my customer is gonna be used for you. It's not gonna fly. Well, but you know, such a good photographer. I say, I don't say didn't say you're not a good photographer. My point is the perceived value is what counts. So if you have customer, coming back to what you're doing, if you have customer that are perceiving what you're doing as essential, that they really want to have the natural product and they really appreciate that and they're really ready to pay a premium for it, great. And you need to find those customers. In the meantime, if you don't have your liquor license, you might want to think about partnering with somebody who has that and have maybe a share profit and maybe also be helping them on site. But the point is, or you go for the liquor license because you believe you need it, or you go for the perceived value because you want to find a customer that are really ready to pay the premium. But if you don't, then I'm sure your product is phenomenal, and I'm sure that it's more natural, and I'm sure it is much better. But if your customer don't perceive the value you're providing, you will not be able to charge more. So having said that, I'm sure that a customer there that would be interested in what you do. So that's more into the market research or talking to some of the current customer that you know are using this type of product. Also talking with other people you could be partnering with. That's where you're going to create the value. And the other point that I want to mention as well, when you say I'm only making profit from prep and service time, well, think about other ways you can make profit. And even if it's not full profit, it's profit share. There is no reason why you should only make your profit there. You want to have a sustainable, successful business. You want to make money when you're providing the value. So there is no reason you should limit yourself. And I would really encourage you to go back to and forget about all the ideas you might have, because they might be limiting belief. Maybe they're not, maybe they are. But do the exercise of, again, going to your business, where you sourcing the product, how much you believe you should be charging so that it's profitable, and how many drinks should you be selling so that it's profitable, and then decide from then on where you're going to charge, how much you're going to charge, who you're going to partner with, and it comes back to your Excel sheet and the numbers. If the numbers are not showing a profit, then look twice, because you don't want to go into a business that from even the get-go, you don't see how it can make profit. But if it's making profit, and to make profit, these are the different steps that you should be taking into consideration, the different partners you might be having, and how many Jews and how many product do you have to sell. In that case, you have an idea, and you can start thinking about where you're going to sell that and how you're going to do it. So I hope it helps. Good luck with that. And once again, it's great to have a differentiator. The key here for you, Marielle, and for anybody, the key in your differentiator is that the customer perceive that differentiator, that customer value the differentiator. If not, then you don't have a business. Cool. Next question is from AJ Kutz. The question is, how do you choose where to focus when everything needs work? Very good point. That's a very good question, AJ. Welcome to real life. Maybe it's this phase of business growth, or perhaps it's my perspective, but I feel like nothing we are executing for our client is performing nearly as well as it should be. I feel like the spinning plate entertainment guy who is always bouncing from one plate that's about to fall to another. With many different type of plates wobbling, I'm really struggling to apply my focus to really excelling at any one thing. So it's a very good point, very good question. How do you choose where to focus when everything needs work? I wish I would know a little bit more about the business you're in so I can, be more precise in the answer. But first thing first, I would really suggest you, the first thing that I would do, list all the different things that you're doing right now. Absolutely all of them. Don't forget anything, including in your private life. If you have to go and take the kids at school or whatever it is, just list everything that you're doing. And then you have 3 columns. The first column is something that you want to do yourself, or you believe you have to do it yourself. And for every time, ask yourself, do I really need to do that? Or is it my comfort zone? Or is it something that because I like it? Is it really necessary for your business? Is it your role to do it yourself? If this is the case, then you put an X in front of the task in the column for you. Second column is delegate. And try to delegate as much as possible. Try to build a business where you are not necessary, where you can help where it's needed, but you're not necessary on a daily basis. And so the second column is delegate. And let me give you an example, simple example, which is taking time, but it's a private example. Assuming you have kids and you have to go and pick them at school, is it something that you should do, or is it something that you can delegate to your spouse, to a nanny, to a friend, to carpooling, whatever it is? This becomes a personal choice as well. As I'm traveling a lot, I love to go and pick my kids at school when I can. So even though I can have somebody else doing it, I want to do it myself because it's my pleasure. There's this concept of you have 18 summers and then they're gone. So I want to take the time for that. So that's important for me, so I keep it. But I could delegate it if I want. Now, for all the things you're doing in the business, in your business, all those plates that are turning, just go and list all of them. And then go again. Is it something that you should be doing, or is it something you can delegate? And the third column that I haven't spoken about yet is the forget about it. And as they say in New Jersey with my Belgian accent, forget about it. It's something that really you don't need to spend time on. It's nice, it can come later, it doesn't have an impact on your business, and it's something related to your customer service. You can think about it later. It's just like a parking lot, write it down for later. So you're down to 2 columns, the things that you do and the things that you delegate. Now, going back to what is it that you do? What is your role? It's your company. You're most probably the face of your company. You're the one who's doing the customer relationship. And then you have all the process to deliver whatever the product or service that you're doing. I'm sorry, I don't have more information on you there, but you get the idea, you get the point. From then on, you want to make sure that everything related to client faces and customer relation, you're doing it. Everything else, try to delegate. And I know it's hard. Listen, if I take my own example of running project, I've run projects in over 50 countries in the world. The very first time I delegate the running of the project, the execution of the project, I was at home and I actually had 2 projects that weekend and no more nails to bite anymore. I was so stressed. And guess what? I had trained the people, I had coached the people that were running the project for me in my team, and they called me once or twice in the weekend, and that was it. Everything went very well. So if you want to grow your business, you need to list all those plates. You need to decide where you're going to focus your time, and you need to delegate the rest. And it could be somebody in your team. It could be a virtual assistant. It can be a partnership. It can be freelance, 1099 people, whatever it is. But you need to have a conscious decision on what it is that you're doing and what it is you're delegating. If not, I'm going to show you what's going to happen. You're going to have 1 or 2 customers, and then you're going to run into the issues and go back curing the issues. You're not going to have time to develop customers, and then the project will be done. You say, oh, I need to find new customer. And it's the crazy wheel, the hamster wheel, or the guinea pig wheel, I don't know what you say in English, basically where you're not getting out of it and you're not building a business. You're just running and doing stuff without consciously and intentionally thinking, okay, this is good for the growth of the business. This is what I should be focusing on. And this is what I'm delegating. And in the process of delegating, you need to put the system in place. as soon as you have a second person, you need to have a process. And guess what? Nobody's going to do it as best and as efficient and as right as you doing it. But you need this process so that the person can follow on the process. And by the way, if this person, for whatever reason, leaves afterward, you don't have to start from scratch. You have the basis, you can coach the person, you can train the new person, and they follow the same process. And by the way, having those processes documented is very helpful, because maybe on the project, that person will come to you and say, listen, in this case, it wasn't clear what I should be doing. Great. You're going back to the procedure and you're updating it. And that's how you're really building the business. That's how you're focusing on the things that are important, that you should be focusing on. That's where you're delegating. And hopefully you will have 2 or 3 plates in the air at the same time, because we're all entrepreneurs and we cannot do only one thing. But you want to have 5, 6, or 7 in there. So I hope it's helpful. Again, if I knew what type of business you would do, I could be a little bit more precise. But I think that already with the listing all those different plates that you have in the air and looking at what you should be doing, what you should be delegating, that's going to save a lot of time, and you're going to focus, and I'm sure it's going to have an impact on your business. Good. Now we're going to the next question from Heather Brockman. Heather is asking, when acquiring a company with existing employees, what is the best way to introduce them to the existing team and implement our current systems? Great question, Heather. And the background for your question is, you've reached out to a local groomer who's selling her company. You're looking to buy 3 vans, and it will come with her 2 other groomers and a bather. And you want to make the transition as smooth as possible. But she had no boundaries with them, and I want to make sure I'm able to keep them on board, but let them know how we run things won't be the same. That's a very, very good question. Again, when acquiring a company with existing employees, what is the best way to introduce them to the existing team and implement our current system? So it's all coming back to the processes and the values. I think that the 2 most important things in your business is the culture that you have and the people that you have. And based on that, especially if it's working now with the structure you have, if it's not the case yet, I would document the culture and the value. What does that mean? What are the important things? And making sure that every time you speak with them, there's an opportunity to give an example of why it's important, what is our culture. The second thing is the people. So when you're going to have your new your new team coming and meet the existing team, one thing that I would do first of all is to celebrate their new people. For whatever reason, in most companies, people are celebrating when people are leaving. They do the farewell party. Why don't you do a welcome party? When they arrive, that they feel they are welcome, that they are expected, that they have their name on the desk, that they have their business card, that they have whatever tools you're using in the company that has already been put with their name, that you pair them with somebody in your team, and that you have the agenda ready for the first days, instead of, oh gosh, this new person is there. Oh yes, I know, I remember I had to train them, but I'm busy with this and then that. You give the wrong impression. Second thing is, the culture you're having, the way you're managing people, I think I would be very open with them and say, listen, you have your experience from the past. This is great. You have a way of looking at things. This is wonderful. You have a way of doing business. This is wonderful. This is how we do it here. And this is what we're going to be working on. So you spend time with them and you make sure that you explain the culture, that they understand what is it that you're doing and how you're doing it. It's not easy, and it's simple in the same time. It's the willingness to explain how you work. And to your point, it has to go from the get-go. Whatever the previous owner was having as a relationship with them, it's the past. So you need to be very clear of what is it that you expect. You need to be very clear about your culture and values, and you need to be very clear about their role. Having said that, don't be afraid to make the point if you think that for whatever reason they're not behaving, they don't have the right attitude that you want. because if you let it go once, then you let it go forever. So I would be extremely strict on that, about the culture and the values and how you're working with them. The other thing, quite frankly, you have to prepare the bench. What's the bench? You know, in any sport, you have some players on the bench that are ready to take over. It is a possibility that the person who's going to come in are not going to like what he or she is experiencing. And it is possible that they might leave. Not that it's what you want, but that's a possibility. So if you know already several people that are ready to take over, that will shorten the time that you need to replace somebody, and actually that will put you in a state of mind much more less stressful, I would say, because you know that if things go wrong, you still have other people that are ready to replace. So ideal scenario, the welcome, the training, the pairing with your current team, most importantly, your introduction, the culture, the values. And then the other scenario where it's not gonna fit well, and I would say there, follow your guts. Don't wait, because one negative element in a team can completely jeopardize the entire culture. So don't make any compromise with that. Be extremely strong and firm on the boundaries that you want to set, on the culture that you want to instill. It's your company. It's why you're successful. You're happy to get other people on board, but they really need to fit into your team. From that moment on, the rest obviously is making sure that you're taking care of your people. I always say that if you take care of your people, they would take care of the customer. That's how I think that the work goes around. But then again, you have a business. It's not a charity. It's not a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout club. It has a meaning for business, for services, for customer service, and that is something that you should not be compromising. Okay? Hope it's helpful. And then I have a follow-up question from you, Heather. What are the steps you should take and terms you should put into legal paperwork when acquiring a company? It's funny because that's something that I'm very deep into right now. So the background of the question is, it looks like I will be acquiring a mobile grooming company that comes with 3 vans, 3 groomers, and a bather. I've never done this and not sure where to start as far as question to ask, what details may need from them, etc. So far, the only paperwork they have provided me are P&L statements the last 2 years, balance sheets, and I'm getting a price for the value of the vans, but since I can't buy a client list, I'm trying to make it fair on how to pay her for the clients she will be bringing over. So I'm not sure why you cannot buy a client list. That's maybe a legal issue here. But first thing first, you want to acquire a business. So there's 2 different ways of acquiring a business. In this case, there's the shares of the company and there is the assets of the company. Basically what you're talking here about the brand, the 3 vans, the people that are working into it that will need to change their employment contract if you're only buying the assets, so not the legal entity. So let me just first spend some time on that because that's very important. If you buy the stock of a company, you are responsible for whatever happened. And in the past, the seller will sign a guarantee. They say that they'll cover what happened in the past, blah, blah, blah. Fine. Let me give you an example. Somebody had an issue with their dog 6 months ago and the dog is dying and you've bought the new company in the same time. They're going to sue the company. Are you responsible for that? No. Is the seller responsible for that? Yes. And what's going to happen? So that's the type of risk you might face if you are buying the stocks, the shares of the company. If you're buying the assets, it's so everything, but you're creating a new structure that, by the way, can still do business with the previous name if this is what you want, or with your name of your own company right now if this is what you want. But you buying the brand or you're buying the customer, apparently if the customer list, there's something here, but you're buying the vans, you're buying the team, if you do that, you are avoiding any potential risk that you would have in buying stocks of a company. And by the way, for the employee of the company you're buying, it will simultaneously be, they will be not fired, but they will stop their employment contract with the previous company, and at the same time have a new employment contract with the new company or with your own company. So that won't change anything for them. So that's the first thing, whether you're buying the shares or you're buying the assets of the company. The second thing I want to tell you, you need to work with the lawyer, not too early, not too late. So let me explain that. Not too early, because I do believe that lawyers most of the time have a tendency of protecting you, which is great, but always looking for what could go wrong, and so that you're overprotected, and at the end of the day, there's no business being done. And then it's becoming a fight between lawyers, and if you haven't negotiated a package with your lawyer, you're paying and paying and paying, and nothing is being done. But more importantly is, if you have evaluated the business, if you have a good relationship with the seller, if you see strategically what you can do for your own business and you want to go with it, awesome. Just ask the lawyer to review the contract, to review the LOI, the letter of intent that you're going to send to the grooming company, saying that you want to buy them, and obviously the terms would be agreed with the seller. And we can go in different aspects of the letter of intent, but in your case, you want to make sure that the person selling is not going to become a competitor for at least 5 years, that they have all the brands and everything, and the tools, and not only the van, but everything that they're using for the business is included. The most important for me is really the non-compete, especially in your type of business. Then going back to the lawyer, you want to look at if the vans has leasing contract, so look at the leasing contract. If they have any type of contract with, whether it's the employee or whether it's with customer, whatever it is, any contract that they would have, you want to look at it and you want to have it verified by your lawyer. And then last but certainly not least, if you go to the transaction, most importantly, that you really need your lawyer to review that, because that's going to be binding for you for the future. Now, that's one thing, is the legal, how do I call it, the legal due diligence. And then you have the operational due diligence that you can do yourself to see, because you know the business, and how is it that they're working, what are the processes that they have, what type of challenges that the groomers have, if you're able to speak with them in advance, and making sure that all the operation, you understand how they are operating, so that you can integrate them in your own company. So you have the legal due diligence, you have the operational due diligence, and very importantly, the financial due diligence. In other words, you say you have 2 years of P&L, great. You want to see the bank statement. You want to look at all the numbers. You want to reconstitute the business plan and making sure that the numbers match, that if they say they've sold, that the revenue is XYZ, it shows up on the bank statement. So if it's a simple business, you can do it yourself, and you can do it with your accountant. Definitely have always 2 pair of eyes, and definitely with your accountant. If the business is more complicated, then you go into what is called a red flag, when you have an accounting firm really looking into the details, into the numbers, and it goes up to the quality of earnings, which is like a more expensive financial due diligence, which quite frankly, I don't think it's needed here at all. But I would definitely have your accountant looking at the numbers with you, reconstituting the P&Ls with the bank statement to see if it match. And then you also have to look at all the eventually insurance that they have, if they have any lawsuit right now against them, or if they had in the past. So there's all those elements. I know it sounds a lot. And then going back to why you're doing this, why you're buying this business, it's because I'm sure it has a strategic importance for you. So I'm not trying to get you out of it. I'm just trying to explain to you all the different elements that you have to look at. Because at the end of the day, when you've bought the company, that's it. You're into it. And just make sure, be aware of one thing. Whatever you look, it's never going to be 100% like you've predicted it. So there will be changes, there will be challenges. But so again, it is something you're looking at. Congratulations. I'm sure it's very exciting. It makes sense for your business. Be sure to be surrounded by the right people. You know the business, so the operation would be you. You need the legal at some stage. You definitely need the financial. And if you have the opportunity as well, look at somebody from a PO company that will look at the contract of employment contract, that everything is respecting the law, and that that everybody is fine and clear and happy with all the business. So legal paperwork's important. Don't go into too much of the lawyer time at the beginning, making sure that you are talking with lawyer and involving your lawyer at the critical steps along the way. And whatever the blocker can be between lawyers, your lawyers and their lawyers, at the end of the day, it comes down to face-to-face with the person selling the business and yourself. If you cannot have that access, then I wouldn't do it. But it seems here that you have access to that. So whatever the issue with lawyers, whatever the issue, any question that you have with your accountant, go back to the seller immediately. Have a list of questions. Maybe you see each other every week at the beginning before planning the final signing and transfer of funds and everything. Last but not least, I'm not sure you've mentioned that. I'm getting a price for the value of the vans. Okay, this type of thing. Try to understand, and I should have started with that because that's the most important. So try to understand, why is the person selling their business? What is the rationale? What is the motivation? And make sure that not only you understand why they're selling the business, but you think it's possible, it's plausible, it's believable. Okay, that is not fishing thing that you don't understand. From the moment that you understand why they're selling the business, then everything is possible. Can be a certain amount paid immediately. If the value of the vans, then maybe it's a leasing, or basically you have different ways of looking at why they're selling it, how much they want, and how you pay for it. So if that person really is motivated to sell and you have a good fit and they really see you as the right buyer, then the rest is really possible. Instead of paying everything 100%, you can have a certain value paid every X month or during the next 2 or 3 years. Or if it's just the value of the vans, then obviously you need to have them appraised and then decide if you're going to take over the contract, if you're going to pay them, whatever it is. But really look at the different opportunities. And if the price is higher, there is this thing now called the SBA, which is the Small Business Administration. Until the 30th of September, they are basically waiving 3 months of capital and interest up to, I believe, $9,000 per month, as well as financing and helping you finance buying this company. So I'm not an SBA specialist for sure. I've been looking into it as well. So you want to talk with your bank, making sure that they are SBA approved, or you want to talk with people around you that are actually intermediaries with the SBA. Again, what do you need? Who are the people who can help you? And look into it. Very exciting project. Good luck with that. And even if it's not your forte or the things that you like the most right now with the legal paperwork, take the time now. It's very important. Even if you like the person that is selling and you have good relationship, make sure that everything is documented and agreed and signed, and that you are well protected for the future. Okay? Good luck with that, Heather. And then I'm going to the next question from Martina Wenk. Martina is asking how to get stronger in motivating myself. Very good question, Martina. The background of your question is you run a home healthcare business in Switzerland. You're a nurse by trade. Doctors and hospitals refer patients to you, and you build the insurance company for services you provide. I sometimes feel I lose motivation and direction. How do I stay on track and keep motivated and moving forward? That's a a very challenging environment that you are. And by the way, you are helping a lot of people, being a nurse and helping people with home health care. That's wonderful. It's hard and it's wonderful what you're doing. So congratulations for that. Now, regarding your question, doctors in hospital refer patients, and the billing is through the insurance company. So the first reaction I have with that is, when are you getting paid compared to how much work and cost do you have? I assume that there is a delay between the moment you're being referred by doctors and nurse and when you're getting paid by the insurance company. So in that process, I will document it to see the number of days in general, and I'll go back to what is the cash flow you need to operate your business, so you always have the reserve for that. That is one part of the stress that can come in the business, is understanding when you're performing the work and getting cost involved and when you're getting paid, the first thing. Second thing is, when you say, I sometimes feel I lose motivation and direction, is going back to what is it that you want from that business? Why did you decide to do that and to have your own structure and maybe be helped by other people in your own structure? Because you're in the middle of different role. You're the nurse, you're the entrepreneur, you're the person doing the administration between the doctors and the insurance companies and everything. So you have different roles, and that might be very tiring, and that might contribute to losing direction. So I would go back to, why did you start that? What are you trying to achieve? What does success look like? How do you see your business in the next 3 years? And really document that. Think about it. Think about the number of people you want to have. Think about the type of revenue you want to have. Think about the number of hours you want to be working. Think about the image. Think about what people, the doctors, the nurse, the patients are saying about you and about your company, and really document that. That will give you a sense of direction. Then you will go back to where you are today. What are the different tasks you're doing? Where can you get some help? I would assume that being billed by the insurance companies means a lot of paperwork that actually need to be filled in already by the patient or by the doctor sending it to you. So you go through all your process of being reimbursed by the insurance company and look backwards. And then you document those different processes, those different milestones in the process, and who should be doing it. That is something that clearly, from the moment it's always the same thing, this is something that you could be delegating to an assistant, to a virtual assistant, whoever it is. So that will save you sometimes for sure. Now, in terms of self-motivation, any entrepreneur is faced with that. That's called the solitude of the entrepreneur. And it's a roller coaster. The days that everything goes well and the patients are calling to tell you how happy they are, then you are in full speed, you're happy, everything is great. And the next day, maybe you're losing a patient because something happened, obviously not your fault, but you learned that, I don't know, they had a heart attack or something like that, and somebody that you build a relationship with. So it's very hard. So especially in your work, I would be surrounding myself with the right people. And who are the right people? People that can advise you on the business, but people that can advise you as well on the mental health. Whether it's a psychologist, another nurse to understand what you're going through. Definitely surround yourself, speak with other people. What you're doing is extremely stressing, and it's extremely important for people in general. You're really helping, nurturing, helping people at home, sometimes I'm sure saving life. That is one of the most stressing jobs that you have. So make sure that you are supported, that you can share your stress, your pain, your excitement with other nurses that understand what you're doing and other doctors that understand what you're doing, but also other people that are there to support you as an individual. That's the first circle of support, I would say. The second circle of support, you have a business. And you might not have a business background. So surround yourself with people that can advise you on your business. Surround yourself with accountants. Surround yourself with other entrepreneurs that are in the same field or that are in the same region that you are, and maybe organize that as a monthly meeting where people are sharing their success and their challenge. And then the third thing is, so you have the personal, you have the business, but the third thing really is have your personal board of advisors. Friends that you trust, that are not competitor, that are going to tell you what they believe should be the answer to your challenge, that are there to support you. And they're coming from all different backgrounds. When I had my meetings and event agency back then in Brussels, I had the head of general manager of a hotel. I have general manager of a large trade show company. I have a friend who was in a large HR firm doing executive search. I have other entrepreneurs that were in a different field. I had the accountant. So I had different people that I trust that I can share my concern with. And you create your own personal board of advisors. So that would be my feedback regarding your question. So I hope that it's helpful. I hope you're going to get a clearer direction of what you want to be doing. And I hope you're going to be able to self-motivate yourself. Last thing I want to say about self-motivation, there is this thing called 75 hard, hashtag 75HARD, 75 hard. It's been created by a guy named Andy Frisella. It's basically things that you have to do every day. You have to drink a gallon of water. You have to do 2 workouts of 45 minutes separated by 2 hours. You have to read 10 pages of a personal development book. You have to weight yourself every day, no alcohol, and stick to a specific diet that you pick for yourself for 75 days. And if you miss one day, you go back to 0. So I've done that, and I go on different phases afterwards. The reason I'm sharing this is I did that started that last year in the middle of the pandemic. Yes, I did lose weight with that, but more importantly, the program is a mental toughness program. And when it comes to self-motivation, that's the best thing that I did for myself last year, is doing this program. It's actually an app. I have no personal interest, but it's an app that costs, I think, $5, where you basically track that every day. And in terms of self-motivation and mental toughness, because that's what it's all about, this is the best thing I found for myself last year. Okay, so good luck with that. Then the 2 last questions. We have Derek Lacrone. Derek is asking, when should I consider bringing in partners for a business? Yeah, good question, Derek. And the background is this is a learning system that will be primarily delivered via an app and have web access as well. So when do you bring in partners for a business? If we were live and you were in the call, I would ask you, are you talking about partners to deliver on the business, or financial partners, or shareholders partners? So I'm going to assume that is financial partners and partners to do the business. Financial partners goes back to your business plan. When do you think you need how much? Do you have that money? If not, where can you get it? And then can you pay interest on that? So it's debt. Or do you have to need to give shares in exchange of, which is equity, and you can have a mix of both debt and equity. I had several partnerships in my life. Some were very successful. One in particular, my first one, I've been taken advantage of. So that was a disaster at the end, and I had to to basically fire my business partner. And some have been okay and good discussion, but not breakthrough. So it's obviously like getting engaged. So there's a process into that. I would say if you don't need a partner, don't look at it, because you might be, and again, I take my example, the beginning of my career, I needed to be reassured. I had some imposter syndrome. I was thinking that alone I cannot do it. And so I was looking immediately for partners. That is not necessarily the case. That's not necessarily something that you need to have. But the second thing really is why you would need a partner. And sometimes, you know, you want to go faster and you want to make sure that you have the right people to take over the market, to go faster, to have the right people in your team, and you might look for more investment. That's really going back to your business plan. Now, in terms of you talking about an app, the different partners you're bringing, I don't know what is your background. I don't know if you're good with tech. I don't know if you can program. I don't know if you're good in sales or marketing. Basically, you look at any business and say, okay, this is what's needed for my business to grow. This is what I would need the first 3 years. And this is what I need the first 2 years. This is what I need the next 12 months. And you decide by what you start and who you need to be started with. So if you're good at tech and you're going to be focusing on doing all the development and maybe hire other developers that you will have to coordinate yourself, you need somebody who's doing sales or who's doing the marketing. If it's the opposite, basically you need to find the right developer. And there is always going back to what is it that you want to achieve. So with the question you ask, when should I consider bringing in partners for a business? That's really based on your business plan. That's really based on the goal of what is the vision and what is maybe the exit you're thinking already in the future, and how do you want to spend your time. Based on that, you decide if you are bringing partners, if you are bringing financial partners, if you are bringing debt or equity. Once again, depending on what you're creating, the app or the web access as well, if you're going into a SaaS model, that's something we can discuss another time. It's much more complicated and requires many more investment and structure. I hope it helps, Derek, and good luck. Please keep us posted. And the last question, going back to Martina, the question she asked is better time management, but how can I do it? To build up my new business, primary nursing, I work full-time in a hospital with all the shifting. Also, my 2 other nurses doing it. So we are using our salary for many things around the new business, but it's touching our health because we don't sleep enough, only 3 hours a day. Okay. If you're sleeping 3 hours a day, all of you, you need to stop that. It's okay to do it for a few days, sometimes 1 or 2 weeks. If not, you're going to kill yourself. And then you won't be able to help any patient. So I don't know if you have a family. I don't know if you have children. Obviously don't know your personal situation. The only thing I know is that any human being cannot go on 3 hours a night for long. Then you're going to make mistakes. And I'm not even thinking about the mistakes when you operate as a nurse, but mistakes in the business. So I would say one thing, it's urgent to wait. And what I would do, first I would get more sleep for sure. And you have to decide which part you're going to say no. If you are doing your regular business and launching this business and you're sleeping 3 hours, you need to block times just to reflect on that. And maybe you need to pause the new business for a few weeks, a few months, to get clarity on what you're doing. So having more time in this particular case goes first to your health. And by the way, it's not only your health of sleeping 3 hours, it's your mental health, because you're gonna reach burnout extremely fast. So again, it's urgent to wait. It's urgent to wait. Block maybe a weekend, 2 days, 3 days, get good sleep for the following weeks. And those 2 or 3 days, sit down, think about the type of business you want to have, think about the life you want to have, think about the time you're going to spend with the different people, think about the business you want to create, think about yourself first. If you're not good yourself, you cannot help the other nurse, you can definitely not help the other patient. You really need to take care of yourself first. Then look at the type of life you want to have, the type of business you want to create, the role that each of you should be playing. If it's your company, you decide the role you want to be playing, what you need the others to do, or you do it together, but you define all the different tasks that need to be taken care of and who's going to do what, and the tempo of the meetings that you're going to have. but please, please, please stop doing this 3 hours a day. It's gonna lead you to nowhere. Good. Martina, that's all I got from you today. If I can help in any way, let me know. There's other coaches as well. Don't hesitate to ask more questions. Please take care of yourself. What you're doing is extremely important, but you need to be alive and well to help others. And that is the end of the question for today. Thank you all very much. And as far as I'm concerned, I will see you next month. Thank you.